Today I'll be refuting the claim that technology has negatively affected the work ethic of the average student and employee. The advocate states that production is diminishing because of various distractions, and that technology in the hands of an unsupervised student can harm their education. For his first supporting claim, he says that people are talking with each other at every given moment, whether it is through email, text message, or social networking sites. However, a person can really choose whether or not he can have a Facebook. He or she can choose to keep his phone on in class, or even write an email at an inappropriate time. He also says that constant access to internet or cell phones reduces work efficiency. However, it doesn't always reduce work efficiency. The internet can also always be used to your advantage to increase productivity. For example, the internet can always be used to help a student refresh his memory on a certain subject, or you can always use your cell phone at an appropriate time to ask a friend what was due for homework. And in the grand scheme of things, the internet, since the introduction of the internet, work efficiency has actually increased. The advocate also states that employee productivity has dropped 1.5% at companies that allow full access to Facebook. I noticed that this 1.5% drop rate is truly insignificant. 1.5% productivity drop rate could also be a result of slightly longer breaks during work hours. The advocate's second supporting claim is that technology in the hands of an unsupervised student can harm their education. I'd like to refute that by saying a student's education is only harmed if he or she does not put enough effort into his work. He says that students have confessed that they have used their cell phones during class, except he has not provided proof that the students who do use their cell phones are doing worse in school than those who don't use their phones. He also says that students who do use their phones during class harm their education by neglecting the teacher. Again, this is truly upon the student's own will to use his or her phone. In that case, a student can also decide to pick his nails or even doodle. It is not necessarily technology that causes students to neglect teachers or instructors. He also says that children spend more of their time in front of a screen than doing schoolwork, and adolescents who play video games spend less time doing homework. Again, technology can't really be blamed for this, because other students can also spend a lot more time playing sports, socializing, or even working more than they do schoolwork. In conclusion, it's not necessarily technology that causes less productivity, and it's truly students and employees' real work ethic that decides their productivity. Thank you.
All right, the structure is good. The interaction issue on the first point, basically you're arguing kind of a counter causality here, that there could be other things that could produce these same kinds of effects. You mentioned that it's a self-choice. Why does that matter if it is still true that it has a negative consequence, the fact that people have chosen to do it? I guess the argument, again, comes down to whether or not there are other distractions that could be producing the same outcome. That would be a stronger argument if you could quantify or show some of those things on these points. The argument about productivity in the workplace because of the Internet is largely assumed. You need some evidence on that point, especially evidence that you could contrast to the 1.5% that the advocate has presented. If you could show, for instance, that in the 10 years since Internet access has become widely utilized by people in businesses, that they have doubled their capacity or something like that, then it would be a heck of a lot more convincing. And the access to Facebook maybe will not seem all that dramatic. The other thing that I think you kind of miss on that point is that although it says companies with access to Facebook have 1.5% lower productivity, there's no evidence that says it's the people who are utilizing Facebook that are producing that. That's just a statistical correlation, whereas the causal link that would be required to reach that conclusion. You could make a transition to the second point. You got the same kind of arguments on the next issue. That there's some good challenges on the lack of evidence, and that there are other distractions out there that people could be getting involved in. And in essence, I think that's one of the things that you keep coming back to. I think it would be easy to quantify, for instance, that people, especially students, sacrifice their time for playing on the football team or committing to socializing or romantic relationships. Even if you had an example of some person who ducked out on school so they go to the movies with their boyfriend or girlfriend one afternoon, that would be an illustration that at least is tangible in contrast to the assertion that the advocates presented. All right, thank you. Will?